bet against to make it. They must not know I love trips to Vegas. The underdog became the underrated. In my city, I'm paraded. Confetti dropping when I'm home. I'm floating down Tudor, floating on strong. Had so many rights they couldn't tell us we was wrong. Lamar Middle School, we was on. I got this line hard in my chest. I'm one of the best. They ask about him, they gon' bring us success. See, I've been fighting in stress. You ain't right to get left. I'm good with my left, so I don't argue with refs. Cause just like you, I'm in the game.
What's up? What's up? This is your boy K Rich, and we're excited to have Sean Olson from Equibala back this week. He's going to be coming back every Tuesday. He's going to be pouring back into this community. He's got 6 topics today of, I'm not going to steal his thunder, but I'm going to let him jump in right now. Appreciate it, buddy, for coming on, and we're so excited. I got my pen and paper ready.
Yeah, no, definitely. Today's sort of all one topic, but it does encompass sort of 6 different aspects of things. And so this is all kind of put together as what I call the 6 factors of conscious response. And so without, kind of overblowing this, I'm going to break this down for you guys. It can get a little bit deep. And so if at any point you got a question you want to ask me, please jump in and stop me. I can be very, very flexible in answering those. But basically what I'm going to talk about today is a breakdown of how we respond in the world. And the choices that we make are what determine the actions that we take. And so there's a lot of pieces that go into this. And so I'm going to start at the beginning of this. And the very first step of this entire cycle that I've put together starts with perception. Okay. And this is our viewpoint. This is how we look at things. So the way that we look at things is based on an accumulation of the experiences that we've had in our life up to this point. And so those experiences develop our understanding of how the world works. Okay, so when we're a kid, we are very biologically driven. We are set up to simply respond. We have a natural tendency to do things because that's how humans work. And as a very baby child, you start to experience the world around you. You don't have anything that you know. You don't have memory. You don't have anything that has happened up to that point. But every day as you go through your day, even as a little baby, before you can talk or walk or feed yourself or whatever, you experience the world around you, and all those stimulus develops these experiences and memories. Okay. And as we have gone through things, once we have done it one time, that memory develops an expectation. So we start with the perception is the viewpoint because of what we have experienced. And the next time we repeat that same experience, we remember, oh, this is how it was last time. And so that develops, which is part 2, which is belief. And that belief is created around the expectation based on previous experience. And so once we go into a repetitive situation, and as we grow up, we tend to repeat things. We're very repetitive in nature as people go, and we develop an expectation and a belief about, if I do things the way that I did it before, I can expect the outcome to come out just about the same way. All right. And what this is in this experience and belief development is a training of the third part, which is the subconscious. Okay. And this is the internal automated responses of how we react when we go into a stimulus situation. So for example, when you're a little kid, your parents are going to tell you, especially as you get older and they expect you to understand the words that they're saying and whatever, that the stove is hot. They're going to tell you, don't touch that hot stove. It's just been cooking. Don't touch it. It's going to burn you, blah, blah, blah. If you have never touched a hot thing, that doesn't mean anything to you. You have no experience with heat and what that means to touch it against your skin. And so the very first time you see a kid put his hand on the hot stove, because curiosity is going to be that driving force of how we learn, we're going to see, what are they talking about? Or maybe I just don't give a crap about listening, or whatever it is that your mentality is as a child. The first time you touch something hot, you will naturally move your hand before you register the physical impact. Your body has safety mechanisms. That is that biologically driven piece to keep you safe. Okay, so even though you don't mentally understand what's going on, your body will move your hand. And the subconscious reaction is always tied to emotion. Okay, and this is very important to understand, because emotion is not mental process. This is a biologically innate response based on the training from the experience and the expectation belief that has been developed over your life up to that point. So that first encounter with the hot stove, you move your hand automatically because your body does it, but you immediately start to analyze. And this is the fourth part, is analysis. So this is where you mentally start to click in and say, what just happened? I just touched this thing, and now my hand hurts, and I'm screaming and I'm crying and I don't know what's going on, because this is my first experience in this specific situation. All right. Now, the analysis part starts to take in all of those factors that led up to that subconscious response. What was the automated thing that happened that I just did because of this experience? And this is where we really start to develop the conscious awareness. The analysis comes in when we imply all of the factors that go into this. Well, my parents told me not to touch it, but I was curious, and the thing was hot and it was red and I could tell, and I knew that it was cooking the food and blah, blah, blah. And I touched it because I wanted to see, and then it burned my hand and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So analysis is all of the mental game kicking in as to why did I subconsciously move my hand away? The automated response is a training of over and over and over. But if it's the first time, you're just going to respond however is naturally ingrained into your body. All right. And so as we start to analyze all these things, we get into step 5, which is conscious decision. This is us mentally taking all those factors in and saying, based on what happened, what do I want to do about it? And again, if you've never been in that situation, you may not make a good conscious choice. You might just sit there and scream and hold your hand, and it's just going to continue to inflammate and hurt even worse and blah, blah, blah. But your parents were watching, or hopefully they're around when you're touching the hot stove, but they're going to say, put your hand under the cold water. Get some cold water on there to stop that pain and inflammation and blah, 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 because they have already done the thing. And so going through that process, because they have told you to do the thing, you consciously decide they know more than me, and I'm going to take an action to put my hand under the cold water to do what they said. Okay. Now, here's how it circles all the way back. Once we take an action, that action becomes an experience. And this is back to where we started. This experience is what develops our viewpoint, our perception. And this is what trains us for the next time. Because you remember, oh, I touched that hot thing last time, so I believe that if I touch it again, I'm going to have a similar response where it's going to burn the crap out of my hand, and then I'm going to have to do the thing over again. Okay, so this is the 6 factors of conscious response that is involved in every single interaction, circumstance, situation in our lives. All right. Now, first of all, does that make sense? I always have to ask that question because it can kind of go a little bit deep.
So my question to you, Sean, is like from a practicality standpoint, like that made sense to me because I've studied your concepts and I understand that like as I go through those 6 phases, a lot of it has to do with me taking an action and then seeing the result. So from an application standpoint, let's just say in my health, for example, how does that relate to my health or things that I'm going to be doing on the health side with you? How does that factor into how you integrate that into your program?
Perfect question. Okay, so as long as the concepts make sense, now we're going to get into implementation. And this is the big part, is I can break you down and tell you what all this stuff is. And you're like, great, cool. How does that apply? Right. And so what this really comes down to is momentary awareness. And this is a whole nother training that we can go into, and time doesn't exist and all kind of things. But the momentary awareness is step 4. The analysis cycle always comes after the subconscious automated response. You develop the way that you respond automatically by experiencing things over and over and having a belief that because I did this thing, here's how it came out. But when you get to that analysis point, it requires you to become aware of the factors that were involved so that you can make an educated decision about how to respond consciously. Okay, and so apply this to eating, for example, right?
The hot sauce thing, right? Like when you tell someone like, don't eat that, that's hot. Like I can handle really hot, spicy foods, but when I point to someone and say, you don't want to try that because it's really spicy, and then they're like, oh no, it's okay.
Yeah, you're going to get burned. Yeah,
they're going to get burned, right? They didn't take in that conscious thought right there to learn from it, like exactly. So as far as nutrition goes and diet, we eat all the time, right? It's part of how we stay alive. And so as a little kid, you usually tend to eat the things that taste good. Your parents have to trick you into hiding vegetables in the macaroni and cheese and, getting you the things that they know that you need that you don't necessarily want to have because, oh, I tasted this and it was gross. I had this broccoli and it was nasty compared to the candy. Okay. And so we develop this experience set that subconsciously triggers how we respond. And what most people fail at is the momentary awareness to shift from allowing the subconscious responses of what we choose to eat to not be taken over by the conscious choice of what we know we should eat. As a little kid, you don't care. The only factor that matters is taste. I am not here as a 6-year-old to be nutritionally sound. I am here to fulfill me because I am biologically driven to just crave good tasting food. And if I've had a donut before and I've had broccoli before, I'm going to choose that donut every single time. Okay. And we get good at succumbing to the subconscious drive. This is the emotional response. It feels good to eat a donut. It feels like crap to eat broccoli. But I know as I get older that because I've eaten donuts over and over and over, it has nutritionally done things negatively to my body. And so this is where conscious choice comes in into a momentary awareness. Rob, I'm not talking about you, but I feel like I don't have any donuts in the other room.
Okay. We'll also pretend you don't. And so even though the donuts are there, here's what it comes down to is if you have succumbed to the subconscious response of allowing the emotion to be the driving factor that allows you to take actions, then that is what is going to continue to happen until you have the momentary awareness that says, this donut is going to have a negative impact on me comparatively with if I ate broccoli. Okay. And so here's what it comes down to is the subconscious is trained over and over and over. It's a response based on habit and routine. And so if donuts are always around and you have allowed yourself to eat the donut because it feels good and it tastes good, and you allow that subconscious part to be how you have developed the way that you do things, the only way to change it is, first of all, to decide that I want something different, that even though the donut tastes good, I know it's not good for me. And so if I want to have a different result in my health, then I need to not eat the donut. And again, this is where it comes down to that momentary awareness, because when you go to eat the donut, you have a choice. You have a conscious decision to make of, am I going to pick it up and put it in my mouth? Am I going to chew that? Am I going to actually swallow? If you do not take into account your momentary awareness that I am just doing this because this is how I've always done it, not because this is what I'm forced to do. Nobody's got a gun to your head with the donut. You know, they're not, Rob, put this donut down, you know, or put it in your mouth. Like, there is nobody there to decide for you. And so this is where owning your choices comes into play based on the outcome that you want to have. And so this is why people, especially in America, are overweight, because they don't own their choices. They allow it to be okay to emotionally respond based on how they have always done things. And just because you've done it that way doesn't mean that's how you are forced to continue to do it. And so once you decide, I am not going to do the same things that I did before, and I'm going to make a conscious choice in the moment of analysis that determines the factors that go into how my next action is going to be taken, and I own that moment, that's when change happens. And guys, I got to tell you, change is never comfortable. It is always a discomfort, because we have subconsciously done this thing over and over and over, and we are used to it. We are comfortable with that subconscious reaction of picking up the donut and eating it. And this is where it comes down to, say, driving, for example, okay? If you have driven for any period of time, after a certain while, you stop paying attention to what it is to actually drive. The very first time you drive, oh my gosh, are you uncomfortable? I have never done this before. I don't know how hard to push the gas pedal. When do I start turning? I don't want to get too close to people. This guy looks like he's going to hit me. All of these things are unknowns, and they're very uncomfortable, and you're very consciously aware. But after you've done it a few times and you've gone down the road and you haven't been hit, and you learn how much to push the gas and the brake and when to start turning and when to ease off of it and all these sorts of things, then you're able to disconnect from that discomfort, and the subconscious automated responses kick in that allow you to drive without paying attention.
It's crazy. So I'll be on my phone. No, I don't drive on the phone. but no, you can, like, it. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, but the subconscious idea of that, like I would drive an hour and 20 minutes to work when I was living in Canada, and it was along a 401, and the 401 has been, you know, it's just a straight highway that goes from Cambridge to Mississauga, and it got to the point where my subconscious would take over driving.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I would be driving. I know that I would be changing lanes and going between the different places, but I would not remember the drive. I would pull into my house and go,
what just happened?
What happened?
Exactly. And this is exactly the perfect scenario of this, is you can drive all the way across town and not remember a single thing, because memory is tied to conscious awareness. And so this is where the shift happens, is the only way when you're driving for you to enact conscious awareness is if a dog runs across the street, or a dude cuts you off, or the rain comes down and you have to slow down. It forces you from outside factors. And this is where we fail most of the time to improve positively in the change motion, is because there is no one with a gun to your head telling you you can't eat the donut. The only way that that donut does not get eaten is if you take ownership of the conscious awareness that is required for you to go through the discomfort that comes from change in doing something different than how you've done it before. But I promise you, it is a retraining of the subconscious. So, for example, the first time you have said, I'm not going to eat the donut, holy crap, is there a temptation? It is hard to, I know they're in the other room. I can taste them in my head, even without being in the other room seeing the donuts, because I know what it tastes like. They are so good. That memory is so strong. But you have the willpower in the moment to say, I don't care how good the donut tastes, because I know if I eat it, it will continue to decline my health. And so I'm going to choose a healthy snack instead. Okay. And so what happens is the first time is always the hardest. It is the beginning of the retraining of our subconscious that is required to shift the automated responses. And when you get through that first one, be aware, I didn't eat the donut, and celebrate that, because that's that feel-good thing that you have to install inside of you to make it worth it the next time. Because the donuts don't go away. We have Krispy Kreme all over the country that is just pumping them out as fast as possible because they want you to buy their donuts. And there are a million pieces of junk food out there that are not going to go away. And so it is up to you to choose every single time when it is an opportunity to put food into your mouth. Am I going to make the good choice or the bad choice? And if you allow yourself to succumb to the subconscious reaction, you're going to do it however you've done it before. So here's the magic, okay? The first time you choose broccoli over the donut, it's weird, it's uncomfortable, but you do it because you know that's what you need to do. And then the next time you come to that, you eat the broccoli again because you know that's what you need to do, but it's a little bit easier than last time. Oh, because I remember last time when I ate that broccoli, I didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't actually that bad. I had made it up in my head that it was going to be horrible because as a kid, I ate broccoli versus the donut, and I was like, oh man, the donut's way better. And so every time you start to eat the broccoli instead of the donut, it gets easier. The emotional discomfort goes down. And once you have eaten broccoli so many times, you actually train yourself to no longer crave the donut in the same way. Right. And so we're retraining that subconscious automated response. And after a while, you get used to having the broccoli be the automated response, and you don't actually think about the donut. Now, here's the bigger trick. Quit buying donuts. Right? Like, that's the magic.
You tell my wife that. You tell my wife that on Fridays, and like that's her gift day to my children. I'm like, no, give them some freaking broccoli.
Yeah,
I didn't buy the donuts.
There you go. And that's the thing, though.
I gave her the money, but she...
yeah. So you can't blame other people for your conscious choices. You cannot blame availability on how it is that I choose. But it's easier to make the choice to not eat the donuts if they're not around. So that's a hack.
So let me ask you a question. So I've done quite a bit of research on cognitive dissonance and trying to, like, what you're saying is just like, I want to become this version of myself that's eating that broccoli and not that donut. And like, do you have a visual aspect so that people can see that person they want to become? Like, how does that factor in with your training as well?
Okay, so visualization is a huge piece of this, but a lot of times it's hard to see things that you've never seen before. So if you've never been in good shape because you ate broccoli and worked out and did the things that you were supposed to do, you've always been overweight. I came from a very overweight state as a kid. I was always the fat kid. Even though I was in sports and did all the things, I was always a heavier guy. And so it was hard to see myself as a thing. And so here's my hack for this. And again, this comes down to you owning it. But the results that we have in our world are an accumulation of the things that we do when no one is watching. And this is my definition of character. Character to me is defined as the things that you do when no one is watching. And that's the majority. You do stuff most of the time no one is aware of. Okay? So you have to understand that factor, that it is on you. It is not your wife's fault that you ate the donut. It's her fault that she bought them, but she is not holding a gun to your head to eat the donut. That's your choice as an adult, that you need to decide, I want something different than what I have. And the definition of insanity is repeating the same results and expecting a different outcome.
So how do you navigate that with a family? I know you have kids, and I know you have a wife, and I know they have preferences, and I know they have certain eating styles. So how do you factor that in to being like a good husband and saying, no, this meal was great? Or maybe that's not, like, do you approach it with that situation? Like, I've been on this health binge for a while. And it's just like, as I go into my pantry, I'm like, sugar. Where's all the greens and so how do you deal with that? How do you personally deal with that at home?
So number one, I leave my wife at home and I do the shopping.
That's a good point.
Okay. Number two is I have to make it very clear to my wife how important it is for me to set the example for the children. Because here's what I found. I did the exact same thing as you. Is I made the decision for myself because I can only control me, right? And when I start doing the thing and I don't eat the donuts and my kids offer it to me and I never accept it, they're like, do you not like these? I'm like, yeah, but they're horrible for you. They're absolutely awful for you. And they watch me. I am the model that they tend to follow. And when I went from 250 pounds down to 200 pounds in about 3 months, the time frame was so short that the difference was noticeable for my kids. And they were able to see that consistent decline of the donut, even though it was offered, it was practically in my mouth because they don't understand personal space. They're like, just eat it. No, I don't want it. It's not part of my thing. This is not what I do. I am training them without forcing them. And then we start to look at how can I control what food they have access to. And so again, this is all kind of bigger picture with talking to your spouse. If that is somebody that is involved in the shopping and saying, hey, can you not buy this stuff because it makes it harder for me? But it's also probably not that good for the kids to have this stuff around. And here's how I work this into Equibala. Okay, Equibala is equal balance. This is an obligation of the things that we have to do to be healthy, but also an implementation of purposeful fulfillment of this emotional feel good. Because if I feel like I never am going to get to eat something that tastes good the rest of my life, at some point I'm going to break down, right? And so one of the structural pieces that I include in Equibala is on purpose cheating. I schedule it in. It's a celebration of all of the times that I ate clean throughout the week. And it gives me that mental celebration because we are a result of what we do most of the time. So one meal is not going to make you fat. One meal is not going to derail every single thing that you have done up to that point. We are a result of what we do most of the time. And so if I eat healthy 95% of the time and I schedule a meal on the weekends, so for me, it's date night. I date my wife every week. Saturday night, we go out and we do what we want to do. And I get to order whatever I want. I don't care how healthy it is most of the time because I've eaten healthy the rest of the time. And it's that celebration that I know I'm looking forward to. And it actually makes me appreciate the good stuff even more. Because when you have it all the time, you just get used to it. You lose that emotional connection. It's just, oh, this is what I do. I ate the donut. I ate a donut every day. You don't really care about the donut. But if you haven't had a donut for an entire week, holy crap, are you really going to savor that donut at the end of the week?
And
And so,
I think it also lets you have that, like as you said, you celebrate it. It also allows you to have that opportunity to go out and have the birthday party and go a little bit overboard. It allows you to go to the wedding and not worry about telling everybody you're on a diet. While this food's coming across and you're cutting it in half and sharing half with your spouse.
yeah, exactly.
And I think having that cheat day is just so important. But knowing that as long as you have those habits in place, that you can go back to them and not falter, because that's what ends up happening is that people take a celebration and they turn Christmas into a 5-day, smorgasbord, shove it in your face, eat everything you can buffet. Like if you actually that you're going to eat those foods, you just make that your cheat day, or know that you can have 1 or 2 cheat days in 1 week because you're going to go right back to your proper
100%. Yes.
Here's what I loved that you said just a minute ago, just recapping with the viewers that are here. If you're just now jumping in, make sure you go back and watch the beginning, because Sean is going through some pretty awesome stuff. And I've been taking notes. And one of the things that I wrote down is owning your choices for the outcomes that you want to receive.
Mm-hmm.
That really stuck with me, because if number one, my cognitive dissonance tells me I want to become that guy, then I have to own the decision every day to cut out or to add to the routines that are going to get me there. Right?
Exactly. And once you've done this long enough, it becomes uncomfortable not to do it. And that's the magic for me. Is any habit takes about 30 days to establish. 21 is not long enough. It's at least 30 days of doing something uncomfortably to have it become comfortable. And so now I have done the healthy eating and the movement cycles and the water intake and the sleep structure and all of these pieces for so long now that when I'm not able to, that's when I'm uncomfortable.
Right.
If I don't get to go for my walk, oh my gosh, my day is out of whack.
Me too.
You know how that is, right? And if I don't get to bed at a certain time and get up a certain time, man, I just feel off. It is weird. And if I allow myself to eat a donut during the middle of the day and it's not my cheat day, I feel bad about it, because I know this is not part of my structural routine that has allowed me to go from the place that I was uncomfortable to where I'm comfortable in my health. And so that's what it really comes down to, is understanding what is it that I really want to achieve. It's not an education thing. If you're talking about health, we live in the world of information at our fingertips in any sake. You can look up anything on Google. You can find out any piece of information you want about how to work out, what to eat. All this stuff is available, and that is fine, but it comes down to the moment of awareness when you make the choice. And I'm not going to talk about this because we're going to key into this on a later episode of Time Does Not Exist. But that's what this really comes down to, is that moment of awareness is always the only point that we exist in. We're going to do it right now. I'm going to take a drink and I'm going to say a thing, and then I'm going to look over here, and then, everything is individual momentary choices. And so if we understand the factors that go into how we make conscious choices, there are 0 actions that we take on purpose that do not come from a conscious decision made prior to that. So that's really all it comes down to. So once you own that decision, the action always follows. It's pretty simple.
And it seems simple, but yet so hard, because I want that donut.
Yeah.
And it was so easy over the years to live this certain lifestyle that it's become so comfortable in the back of my mind that I just habitually wake up and do it this way, because I've always done it this way, or I've seen it done before me, like you were saying before, by my father or my, the predecessors that I followed. So it's like you could be coming from a family that has dealt with things that have been ingrained into your subconscious over the years, or even your DNA, so that you come out of the womb making those poor decisions, right? Just because that's what I'm accustomed to, because that's the outcome that I saw in front of me growing up, right?
Yeah.
And so in that moment, like having to make a shift away from possibly, addressing your wife or addressing your family and saying, hey, here is what I want to do for myself. Here's how you guys can help me out, but here's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Is a big piece. Like communication in a marriage or a business is a big piece. The other question I had for you, we've talked a lot about like the health side of things, but does this conscious awareness also factor into like things I do at work?
Absolutely. This is the choice structure applies to everything that you do. Health is an easy way to see this, but the results that we get come from an accumulation of the actions that we take. So if we want to build a business, we have to visualize what we want that business to look like. And then we have to decide, if I want that business, what steps do I believe I need to take in order to go in that direction? All right. And so this is also the second part that I haven't identified yet. So for me, character is the things that you do when no one is watching. And this is what that accumulation factor comes up to be. But in order to make the good choice in the moment, it requires integrity. And I stole this from Eric Thomas a long time ago. But the definition by Eric Thomas for integrity is an unwavering commitment to yourself, because you are the only one there when you make choices that no one else sees. And those carry over into the choices that you make in front of people. It's so much easier to do by yourself because you don't have that influence. You don't have the kid shoving the donut in your face. You don't have somebody trying to pull you away from your business or whatever. If you can't do that by yourself and own the choice, because I have said this is what I want to do and I am not going to fail myself, then you will never be able to do it when there's pressure from other people. So you have to own it yourself in the moment when there is no one else. And you develop that response as just how you do it. And then when you get in front of people, it's a lot easier to be able to kind of fight off those external temptations.
Yeah. And sometimes, I have a tendency to beat myself up when I falter at my character. And that's another thing that I've learned, is to not necessarily beat myself up, but I am definitely consciously aware. Like, just going through conscious awareness training with the Wake Up Warrior Brotherhood. Once you're aware, you're aware. And you can't wash that away. You can't get rid of that awareness, because everything that, everything that I do now, I'm consciously putting that filter over my life. And that's made a major difference. It doesn't mean that I continue to make the poor decisions. It's just, I have a better perspective to come from. I have more of a conscious awareness of I choose the donut, but I know the result on the other end of it. And just like you said, this factoring in where it's not habitual, where it's not a pattern, So another question I had is, like, you're going through that process, like, just from a practical standpoint, how do you interrupt that pattern of doing something over and over and over and over and over again? How do you have any like hacks for pattern interrupts, or is it just I'm doing it because I've got a strong level of integrity and character? What if I lack in that? Yeah. How do I get through those moments to shift?
So for me, it took a long time to understand this, because especially if we look at the health side of things, there's a lot of factors that go into you being healthy. And when I made the choice to start changing my health, I had to scale it down. Don't try to change everything at once. Focus on one thing and master that. So for me, my pinnacle moment was Halloween 2019. I sat out in my front yard and I drank Crown and Sprite and ate candy all night and handed out candy in my front yard around the fire and had an awesome time. But when I got done with the night, I felt like crap. It was awful for me. I was just sugar overload. I was lethargic. I was bloated. I was feeling awful. And I said, tomorrow, I didn't say I'm going on a diet. I didn't say I'm going to, become the fit guy. I said, tomorrow, I'm not going to have carbohydrates. That was the one choice. So I did what is called a micro goal. And I mastered that micro goal for one day. And then I celebrated that, because that day I was able to say, I don't have the big picture in front of me. We will big picture ourselves out of success. If you say the definition of success is based on what it is that I have said the end result is going to be, you will fail every time, because you do not control all the factors that go into that end result all at once. The only factor that you control is the momentary choice right now. And so I said, tomorrow I am not going to have carbohydrates because I got enough today. And so I was able to say, yeah, this is just a one-day thing. But then at the end of the day, after not eating a bunch of carbs all day, I felt good. And I celebrated it. And I said, man, I'm going to do this again tomorrow. And then I did it again the next day. And I celebrated it. And then I went into the next day and I did it again. And I subconsciously retrained myself without intentionally doing it. But once I realized that's what had happened, I said, wow, this actually wasn't as hard as I thought it was. And so all I did was I took out one piece, which was a type of food that I'm going to eat. And then I said, okay, I'm still eating way too much of the other foods. How can I focus on reducing how much I'm going to eat? And that's when I put in the actual structure of an eating window. When am I going to eat? Then, okay, if I just put it off a couple of hours until I have my first meal, and then I also don't do the carb thing, then I'm going to be able to actually start in restructuring the whole nutrition program, right? And then I figured out to add a cheat day. And then I figured out how to not buy the foods at the store. And then I figured out how to talk to my wife. And then I figured out how to deny my kids, and like all of the pieces that add up to making those decisions in the moment is me owning the one choice in the moment that I could control, which was, what am I going to eat right now? Am I going to eat right now? Those are the micro goals that add up to it. And then it's the same thing with the workouts. It's the same thing with the sleeping. It's the same thing with the water. It's the same thing with all of it. When you small improvement your way towards progress, it becomes a big picture thing. And so if we really focus on the momentary choice right now, and we exclude everything that we've done in the past because we don't control it, is gone. We don't have any influence over that. And what's going to happen in the future, all the steps that I'm going to take in the future that are going to help me get healthier, I don't control those until I get to that place. I'm right here. That's what I had to focus on, is right now, what this bite of food, not the whole meal, is this bite. You can actually put a donut in your mouth, and this, I don't recommend this because it's hard to do, but you can chew on a donut and spit it out. You have to choose to swallow. Now, that's really gross, obviously, if we're spitting out chewed up donut. But my point is it's that consistent choice over and over and over in the act. You can take one bite of a donut and be done. Boy, that's hard to stop. Once you say I'm eating a donut, like nobody wants you to take a bite of a donut and put it back.
Well,
right?
Especially like from a chemical standpoint, like from an addiction or something like that, that's chemically embedded into like creating some type of euphoria or thing like that. Right. So it's just, it makes you think. It makes you think like in that moment, when other factors are affecting this addiction. And it could be food, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be anything, right?
Yeah.
And that I'm consuming that's overtaking my life, right? That's created a version of myself that I just don't recognize.
Yeah.
So just like in that moment, you're consciously aware. You're choosing to spit that donut out, even though I wanted to get a little bit of taste of it. It's like I heard Garrett J. White in that Wake Up Warrior Brotherhood talking about a guy that was wanting to quit smoking. He was like, get in your pack of cigarettes and cut them in half. He said, you'll stop smoking half the pack. And I was like, that's being consciously aware and also taking it a step at a time and not just completely, I'm going to quit cold turkey, and it's like making those incremental shifts and resetting, your conscious awareness of what's going on in that moment, right? Yeah. Tricking myself, hacking it, spitting that donut out. Maybe I just want to get a little taste of it, while everybody else is enjoying it. But I'm going to just go ahead and spit it out. That way I just don't intake all the bad stuff.
Exactly. And here's what it comes down to in these responses. And this is part 3 of these 6 factors is the emotion. We are all chasing a feeling. And when we eat the donut, it triggers chemicals inside of our brain that make us feel a certain way. And that taste response, we feel a certain way. And when we take one bite and we swallow it, we immediately succumb to that subconscious response that because I've eaten a donut before, I didn't eat one bite, I ate the whole thing. You trigger that subconscious response again. And so again, even though you've taken one bite, no one's holding a gun to your head to take the second bite or even to eat the whole thing. You have to own the momentary choice. And it's a choice over and over and over because you can't eat a whole donut in one bite. I mean, maybe you could try, but man, that would be really tough.
I could probably do it.
And it would be really uncomfortable.
I definitely can do it.
Okay, donut whole maybe, right? But my point is you're choosing over and over and over to bite, chew, swallow, bite, chew, swallow, bite, chew, swallow, bite, chew, swallow, until you get through the whole donut. So this is over and over and over succumbing to that subconscious response because that's how you've done it before.
So the next time you're eating a donut, remember that you only are one bite away from not eating it.
Exactly. Or one spitting out motion from not swallowing it. Because if you put that donut in your mouth and you don't actually swallow it, you're not really going to hurt yourself that bad. It just makes it really weird, So,
well, I don't want to take up any more, just diving into other topics because this is what we were talking about today.
Sure.
So I appreciate. We'll just wrap it up right there. And then also, if you're just watching right now, if you're jumping in, make sure that you put R for replay or that you caught this live. Also, make sure that you get to Equibala.com. We have down at the bottom, you'll see the web address. You can also connect with Sean on Facebook. Sean is going to continue to come back each week and provide value to this community. So I suggest you do what I do and take the notes so that you can apply what you're learning here and also get involved with this program that is going to help you become more consciously aware of your choices, the actions that you're taking, and what type of person that you actually want to be. Sean will help you get to that point. So, Sean, I appreciate you coming on again. We're going to see you back next Tuesday. Anything that you would like to wrap us up on your way out, giving a plug for yourself or any other points that you would like to make?
Yeah, hit Equibala.com. I've got all of this stuff in there that is related to your health, your nutrition and workout routines, the water drinking, all of those sorts of things. But a lot of these mindset topics are really the most important factors. Because like I said, there is endless information available online about what it is that you should do. But when you understand how it is that you make choices and what those choices equate to as the results that you get from the nutrition and the workouts, that's when you really start to actually get results. And so if you want results, you got to own the choices. So hit Equibala.com. I'll give you the structure of how to implement it, and we'll make you on a good path.
Awesome. Rob, would you like to close us out with anything before we jump off?
Well, I mean, I last week I said that I was going to do the 90-day program. And of course, one of the most responsible things you have to do is you have to go see a doctor first. So I did do that. And they said I have to lose 33 kilograms. So that's a big chunk of weight. That's a big chunk of weight. And,
It's like 50 pounds.
Yeah, it's a lot. So Carrie and I both, were athletes and stuff like that. And I know, Sean, you were an athlete too. And then we transitioned into offices and we got into like teaching for Carrie and I, and we started gaining weight. Right. And it was one of those things. And Sean's program is really about, and you said you wanted to focus on a lot of people who are at home, staying at home, working from home, working at a desk job, and getting that out there. So we talked a little bit earlier about what's that image that you have in yourself, what you used to look like. So actually I downloaded one of the pictures. Now this is going to be a rare picture. So for those people who are watching online, you're going to see me with hair. Right. So this was me when I was a lifeguard. I was also swimming probably 2 to 3 kilometers a day, probably running probably about 5 to 10 kilometers, and biking, up to 40 kilometers. I was really fit and going there. So it's going to be a little bit of a funny one. It's a young picture of me. But, there we go. There you go. So you can see, I'm a lot thinner than I was. I had my nice little beard going on there, summer beard. But so I mean, I've got to get back to almost that size by basically what the doctors are saying. So I was going back through trying to find a picture of me at approximately 79 kilograms. And I was like, what the hell? When was the last time I weighed that? And I was like, high school.
Wow.
After high school. So so I'm going to lose a hell of a lot of weight. I don't even know what I'm going to look like, but we're going to start off using Equibala. We're going to go from there and see what we can do. So I'm going to have to say thank you, Sean, and I'm going to be in touch. I'm going to start posting in Sean's Facebook page tomorrow. And oh boy, 33 kilograms. But I'm gonna get there.
Here's the great thing about it, though, Rob. Time doesn't exist, and you only need to make one choice at that moment to get to that end result. And you'll come back the next day, and you'll do it again. That one choice. And then we'll do it again. That one choice. To me, it was all about my non-negotiables. I have not sacrificed on my walk, but I've sacrificed on my exercise and my eating and my other things that factor in to me being a healthier me, right? And what time I eat and what I eat and how I consume. So we're going to get there. And I know we're going to get there because when we hold each other accountable, things happen, things move. So
definitely. That's the magic.
You said it, we'll hold you accountable.
Yep. So I've said it now, 3 times now? This is the 3rd time, right?
That's right.
And, so the doctor says I'm okay. Got some physiotherapy that I got to do with my neck and stuff like that. Because being an athlete, I got injured. So, and we've talked to Sean about this before, even if you've been injured and you've done stuff to your body, abused it by being some kind of crazy extremist, jumping up and down and, rock climbing ropes and stuff like that. Take your time. As long as you make that choice and you do it every day and you start going through with it, then you're going to see results. And
I just want to put this in too, Rob. Being honest is tough and it's required.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not honest and you don't tell everyone else around you what your intention is, it's so much easier to succumb to that subconscious training that we've already ingrained in ourselves, that we're just going to do it how we've done it in the past. And so when you tell someone else about it, you will do more for other people than you will for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so they will help hold you accountable. So we're going to hold you accountable. We're going to keep you on point, Rob, and make sure we get you on the right track, man.
Yeah, my wife already started beating. She bought the donuts, but she made sure that I didn't buy a pizza today.
Step by step, man.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Well,
Thank you very much, Sean. Yeah, and Carrie, you can take it out.
Awesome. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate you showing up. We went about 54 minutes, which is perfectly fine with me because I'm walking away with tons of value. Like I said, hit this on replay. Make sure you comment. Make sure that you share this with somebody that might be struggling with making that decision or just doesn't have an accountability group to become a part of. That's what you can find at Equibala. That's what you can find at We Give 110. Guys, we appreciate it. Keep giving that 110, and we'll see you next week.